one. What's up, everybody? Back with another season awards video, this time for the 2024-2025 NFL season. We're looking at both MVP and Rookie of the Year odds in this video. We're going to tell you our favorite picks and just kind of opine about the field and the odds in general. But first, as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We had a lot of good content already posted, and obviously more coming out throughout the season that you're not going to want to miss. Like the video if you're enjoying it, and then even most importantly, comment on who you're picking this year for your MVP and for your Rookie of the Year. With that, let's get into the MVP odds this season per FanDuel. You get guys all the way down to CeeDee Lamb at plus 15,000 here, but I think everyone knows that MVP is a quarterback race here, and as you can see with all the top candidates here. Just a quick question for you, Slee. Where's the line here? Like, where's the cutoff where, okay, after this quarterback, no one else behind them can really win MVP? Where's the
I
last
don't know. I
realistic
don't
odds for you?
I don't agree with some of the odds because I feel like at least like Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, like maybe not Deshaun, but I do think like if you're a mobile quarterback and you can kind of pad those stats also on the ground, I feel like you have just a much better chance
Yeah.
of winning MVP when you are like versatile. I mean, we just saw Lamar do it last year. Um, so yeah, I feel like I don't see like after what Jared Goff did last year, I don't know how he could do much better. Like I don't know how
Yeah,
you could
that's
bet
very fair
on
point.
Jared Goff, but like you said, I wouldn't bet on a non-QB. But I think the cutoff is right around Herbert if we're being like a little more realistic.
Mhm.
Um, Never know if like Rodgers has one more in him. I wouldn't
I
bet
would
on it,
love to
but
see it. No, it'd be
yeah,
tough. But I'm with you. I
yeah,
think that's where the line is. I'd even put it before Herbert. I think after Prescott, but Herbert's got the talent to do it. It's just that the weapons might be lacking. And kind of to counter your point that you just mentioned with a guy like Anthony Richardson, like who might light up the statue this year. To be MVP, you have to do a few things, and one of them almost certainly is win your division, and which is tough for the Colts this year. But even if you're outside of win your division and go beyond that, you need to have some of you need to have basically the best record in the NFL or close to it. That is such a proponent of what happens. That's why Lamar Jackson, I think part of it with him last year, obviously he played lights out and absolutely terrific football in the second half of the year. But if you look at the MVPs recently, like these are guys that are MVPs turned into who's the quarterback on the best team, because you can't really be the best team without a really good quarterback anymore. It happens, but really not often. So when more often not, these really great teams are being driven by elite quarterback play. So if you're the quarterback on the best team, that's usually what the MVP is. And that's kind of how I'm basing my pick this year for MVP. Um, let's just jump into it. We can go back to this and talk about the board in general, but I want to hear what your MVP pick is, and we'll jump to this slide here.
yeah. So I think at 14-1, Jordan Love is great value. I mean, obviously there's top elite players in the NFL right above him, but last year, second half of the season, he was QB2 right on pace with Josh Allen as he was kind of lighting up the stat sheet and pulling the Bills back into the playoff race. So, but I mean, Jordan Love, much more inexperienced player. Like while you could view that as a con, I think you could expect more growth from him year to year, still early on in his playing career. Um, I mean, not that it's a reason I would bet on Jordan Love, but I mean, we've seen the Packer quarterbacks
Don't
who've
remind us. Yeah.
sat on the bench for first couple seasons under a Hall of Fame quarterback and then eventually became a Hall of Fame quarterback. Not saying it's going to happen here, but um, based on what we've seen so far, it's not a completely way out there thought. Like
No,
it is
no, it's not.
possible. We saw him be arguably the best quarterback in the NFL in the second half of the season. And this roster around him as well is also really young and talented. A lot of these rookies were getting some of their first NFL snaps last season. Give them another year to progress. We talked about Christian Watson, but Hopefully he could finally get that hamstring injury behind him that's been nagging him pretty much since he's been in the NFL. But if you have him healthy, he has four legitimate options to throw the ball to, just out wide between Watson, Dobbs, Reed, and Wicks.
Yeah, it's
I
scary.
think he's got the
And
deepest wide receiver room. Even if one of them goes down, it's probably
without a
won't miss
doubt,
too much of a beat.
without a
You even
doubt.
got an upgrade at running back, with Josh Jacobs. So I think he set up weapon wise and just the the amount of guys he could throw the ball around to, couple that with some improvement from last year, somewhat staying on par with his second half performance. And I think this team could be right there. Um, I mean, I think I know I like the Lions a lot. I don't think the Packers defense is as good, but if we're just going pure stats wise, I think the Packers offense, at least passing game wise, will look better than the Lions this season. And I think they could make that jump. I mean, saying the Packers are going to be the best team in the NFL this year is a little bit of a stretch, but I think Jordan Love is the kind of guy that could get it done for this team. And they have, I mean, some of this is going off the last year's stats, but they have the fourth easiest strength of schedule for quarterbacks. So not playing like elite secondaries week to week. If they get the ball flying around with LaFleur calling the plays, I think they could really surprise some people this season.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair pick, especially given the odds and the value there. What I'm going to need to see from Jordan Love is a few less mistakes and errant throws. There's definitely plenty of turnover worthy plays that I've seen from last year that didn't end up in interception, but because of I would say, lack of touchdowns he's going to get, I know he's got a great receiving core, but just these offenses with LaFleur have been pretty balanced, especially when you bring in a guy like Josh Jacobs and you still have AJ Dillon at running back. He's not going to throw for 40 touchdowns this year, most likely, because you're going to get some running backs taking those touchdowns. So in order to have a true MVP season, one, again, you gotta win the division more than likely and win a lot of games. But he's gonna need to really minimize the mistakes here because he's not gonna have 45 touchdown passes like a Josh Allen's going. Josh Allen's gonna account for 45 touchdowns plus. Josh Allen might get 50 this year with what he's gonna have to do with his legs and arm to make the Bills contenders here. So Love can't compete with those kind of touchdowns numbers, but where he can beat Josh Allen and the rest of a lot of the league is he can control turnovers. And so if he can do that, then he's got a real shot.
Yeah, I mean, every year you see a team emerge. Last year, Texans, Lions, and I mean, it's kind of funny saying the Packers emerge, but I mean, they haven't been a top tier team since Aaron Rodgers was really in his prime a few years ago. So, I mean, I think they could surprise some people. They're trending in the right direction, and just all the youth on the roster. I mean, you look at the average NFL age, like rookies come in and are studs right away. Like sometimes it takes a little more time at the quarterback position, sometimes a little more at tight end, but compared to like other sports like MLB, NBA, these guys usually take a few years to get going, but having fresh legs, staying those couple extra seasons in college, when you hit the NFL, you're way more ready to go. And just, I think having a younger roster is just benefits you that much more.
Without a doubt. And if, like you said, it's funny to say that they emerged, but the expectations were very much up in the air as Jordan Love was the first year starter last year in Green Bay. They became the seventh seed in the NFC and they beat the number two seed Cowboys, and they really gave the 49ers a run for their money in the playoffs. Now the Packers take another step up this year. Who knows what the heights they can achieve? Like again, they got such great talent at wide receiver. It's scary. So I can see it. He's got great weapons. Like arguably the deepest. I think you can really make the point the deepest wide receiver room. What you're going to need for him too for MVP is one of those guys needs to step up and become borderline elite. If you can do that, then this case for Jordan Love MVP becomes rock solid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm betting on how that second half of the season went. If they could keep
Yeah,
that
no,
going,
stepped up.
Christian Watson or Jaden Reed, I know who you love.
Oh yeah.
If they step up, I could see it.
All
All
right, I'm
right.
gonna go to my pick, and it's a little lame, isn't that great? It's the reigning MVP, Lamar Jackson. Same odds, if not better, like in terms of value than Jordan Love.
Yeah.
And I get why, and I like this term to use, voter fatigue. I get it. People don't love handing back-to-back MVPs, but it's happened in recent memory, not too long ago with Aaron Rodgers. Sometimes people are so good and so dominant that you have no choice but to give them back-to-back MVPs. I think Lamar Jackson is in line to do that. And, I'm not going to say too much that we haven't already heard or don't already know about Lamar Jackson. Dual threat quarterback, of course. He's going to run the ball a lot. He's going to get his fair share of rushing touchdowns and rack up the stat sheet with his legs. But he did make steps and improvements in the passing game last year. He's still not even close to the degree of a passing threat as basically every other NFL MVP candidate we're discussing. So that's a little bit of confidence, but he is making strides, and his wide receiver room is getting more talented with guys like Sayflower really helping him out, Rashad Bateman at the wide receiver, and then Mark Andrews when healthy. And like I said in the beginning, what I really like about the Ravens is how elite their defense is, and I honestly think they might take another step up here as a guy like Kyle Hamilton really starts to come into his own. I could see him being Defensive Player of the Year, by the way. Um, that defense is scary. The only thing that really lacks is pass rush. They could figure that out. This team's going to be great. Actually, I think they have a pretty good pass rush, but no one elite. But they're going to win games. Bottom line, their offense is going to be there with Lamar Jackson, and they are going to lock out on defense yet again. This team wins 14 games, make it 15 games. It starts to become really hard to not give Lamar Jackson the MVP if he's doing the things that Lamar Jackson does. The only thing that could take it away from him is one, Joe Burrow and the Bengals ball out and take the division from the Ravens, which, given their defense, as you alluded to in another video, I don't see that happening. Or two, you get a team like the 49ers who are kind of slated to run over that entire division, and Brock Purdy gets it. You need a team here to, if you're not sniffing the amount of wins the Ravens are going to get, and I really do think they're going to put up similar numbers to last year, then you're not going to get MVP. So someone in the NFL needs to go out there and win at least 13 games, or it's Lamar Jackson's trophy. I really believe that. Because I think the Ravens with their defense are basically a lock for 13 wins if Lamar Jackson is healthy. And we've seen injuries to a lot of guys, the Ravens personnel. As long as Lamar Jackson's on the field, they're going to be winning games with that defense. It doesn't even have to throw to good football players. They just get it done with them.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it a lot on previous videos, but I mean, the Ravens they're great last year and pretty much got better overall as a team. Added some weapons, mostly on the offensive end, but
Guys coming back from injury, like they scare me more this year than they did last year. And last year they looked unstoppable. Remember that
right,
game like right
same.
around Christmas time against the 49ers where they just smoked them because their defense was so overwhelming? So like,
Yeah, I mean Harbaugh. Now you got both Harbaughs in the NFL. Not
yeah,
that
back
that makes a
again.
difference, but
I like it. I really think the thing that would keep it from him is, yeah, obviously someone just flat out outplaying him, but also voter fatigue. Like that will play into a factor. Like,
yeah,
hey, because you
y-
start to get that's three MVP territory, and then you have people that are voting start to play in their minds like, okay, it's not about is Lamar Jackson an MVP? Is Lamar Jackson a three-time MVP? Does he belong in
right.
the same
Brady's
conversation with
Brady
Aaron
only has
Rodgers?
three
Yeah,
NFL MVPs.
you
So
know,
yeah, it's like, are they gonna want him to tie Brady?
yeah,
I mean, not that
exactly.
that's a
Do we want
big
Lamar
threat.
Jackson in the same breath as Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Brady, these guys? And I certainly think it's warranted, but some people don't think that way either for a
Right.
variety of reasons.
Yeah, no, I mean he's all set up to do it. It's yeah, we you said exactly why.
And here's the favorite. I just want to talk about him. I know you put this together too, but Mahomes 5-1 odds. Again, the reason why this is so justified is because it's a best quarterback and the best team kind of system for the MVP, and that's just what Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are. And they got, like you said, improving supporting cast at wide receiver. I would like to see Rashee Rice, second year wide receiver, really step up. But then you got some other guys like Hollywood Brown at wide receiver,
Yeah,
Xavier Worthy.
Xavier Worthy.
So like they got a good cast there. Obviously, Kelsey's there too. You get Pacheco stepping up as another year under his belt and really coming to his own running back. And like you said, innovative play calling with Andy Reid. Like you're just going to see these Mahomes do things that no one else does, and that probably takes into account in the voting factor too. And then again, the downside of that, Collins, is voter fatigue, and just not even just voting fatigue; it's expectations. The bar is set to the moon for this guy, and he would it's to far exceed that is nearly impossible with the expectations that have been set in place for Patrick Mahomes. So it's hard to get MVP votes garnished for you when people already expect the world out of you. And then
Right.
less dual threat too. While he's still very mobile and makes plays with his legs, he's not like the Lamar Jackson type where he's gonna, just do some crazy things with that aspect as a quarterback too.
Yeah. I mean, he'll have the flashy highlight reel plays. Like he had the behind the back pass to Kelsey in the last preseason game. But yeah, I think my thing more than anything with Mahomes, rather than getting into like stats, is just the amount of times I've heard people say like, "Oh, I've learned my lesson. I'm not betting against the Chiefs anymore," or
Mhm.
like, "I'm not betting against Mahomes anymore." Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just like how many times can you bet against someone and be wrong until I forget what's the term until you're delusional. Um,
Crazy
yeah,
is
but
just doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different
yeah,
outcome.
expect exactly. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. But I mean, yes, he didn't win it last year, Lamar did, but he does have two already. Um, yeah, and I just think at like 5-1, and you do think he's gonna at least win three in his career, and probably end up with more MVPs than Lamar has right now.
You
I
have
think
to
it's
think.
it's hard to, yes, like the odds, you're not gonna get insane odds, especially when he's against the field, but like I don't know, if you could bet on Mahomes, who's like you're saying, he already has the craziest expectations in the league. I mean,
Well, his
5-1's
division
not
is at
bad.
such an all-time low since he's really been playing there, where I mean the unless Bo Nix just balls out in Denver, you're looking at two bottom 10 teams, if not two bottom five teams in Las Vegas and Denver. And I really don't think much of the Chargers we've seen in the past
They're
with
gonna
kind of
take a
their
little
aging
while.
defense. And I'm just not a big fan of the Jim Harbaugh style of coaching, not coaching, but play calling really offensively. We'll see how it plays out, but it's really much more ground and pound than it is Justin Herbert's
Yeah.
style of
They don't,
slinging
yeah,
for 400 yards.
let's
So
say they don't have
I
the
don't think
personnel for it either yet.
no,
Like he's trying to
the
build
personnel
out that O
doesn't match
line,
the
but
head coaching. Yeah, exactly. So we'll
yeah,
see. But you're right. Mahomes is going to win MVP every 5 years, and if you bet Mahomes to win MVP every season he's played in his life, you probably make money on it.
yeah, exactly. If you get five
So
to one every year, he's gonna win it at least once every 5 years.
yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, it makes it hard not to justify betting it. Anyone else here that I'll answer my own question. One guy that we didn't mention, I could see Jalen Hurts doing it. I really like Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator there in Philadelphia now, former Chargers last year, but did a tremendous job with the Cowboys and really made their offense explode. I don't think Jalen Hurts took a step back last year like everyone thinks he did. I just think he was playing a little hurt. I didn't like the offensive play calling. I think now with Saquon Barkley at running back, Devonta Smith another year under his belt, coming into his third, and then AJ Brown being one of the more certainly physically dominant wide receivers in football. Jalen Hurts has a running aspect too, dual threat quarterback. Um, I think he's got a chance. I wouldn't put my money on it, but I think he's got a chance. And again, um, he's more likely to get it than Dak Prescott. I think for it, we all know that Dak Prescott's going to throw for 4,500 yards with that Cowboys offense. That's just how it's designed, especially how weak their running back room is. But yet Jalen Hurts is ahead of him. I think partially that's because the expectations for the Eagles as a team is a little bit higher than the Cowboys in terms of win total. But I think Jalen Hurts, he's impressed me just about every season. Last year was a little bit of a letdown. If he can take even a slight more step up, I think he's got a chance to be MVP.
Yeah, no, I mean I think that's a good point on Jalen Hurts. Like the year before when they played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I mean everybody was arguing that Hurts is the best quarterback of changes. Even the year before when everybody was saying Burrow was the best when they made it to the Super Bowl against the Rams. So I mean these guys are right there. They've shown they could do it too. So it's really a matter of just putting all the pieces together.
Agreed, agreed. Maybe sprinkle a little bit on Christian McCaffrey if you're going crazy. But I forgot about so that brings us to the rookie of the year odds here. Caleb Williams the favorite, which I love to see given the weapons that he has in Chicago. But I'm going to highlight someone just because the odds aren't good enough for plus 135. I would never take that bet just because it's just not worth it for me. If I were to take someone, sorry, I'm going to skip to my pick. It would be Jaden Daniels. Got rookie quarterback at LSU in Washington. What I really like about him is the dual threat aspect of the QB, where we've seen it before, at least in my lifetime, where you can have two great quarterbacks at 1-2, And even if one quarterback wins one more games and does better as a team, the rookie of the year lends itself more to stats, and especially the running quarterback can help with more stats. And what I think about when I say that is the Andrew Luck RG3 times. With Andrew Luck was the number one pick, brought the Colts with the worst team of football to the playoffs, and yet RG3 with the at the time Redskins, it was actually the rookie of the year that year, who was sensational both with his arm and his legs. And I think Jaden Daniels on the same franchise could do the same thing with his legs. But I also like the supporting cast he has a wide receiver. It's not the best by any means, and it's certainly not as good as Caleb Williams in Chicago, but we've talked about it in other videos. I think Scary Terry McLaurin is a great wide receiver one to have in any offensive system, and just about a sure-handed receiver you can get. I think Jaden Daniels and him will get along pretty quickly. But even a guy like Jahan Dotson, who's a young receiver that can take a step up, that could be very helpful for a guy like Jaden Daniels too. And then lastly, the thing that's working in his favor the most, I think, is that this offense is going to have to put up points. Whereas the Bears have, a solid defense. I think it's getting solid, even better by this season. Um, this Washington football team defense was atrocious last year. I think they were the 30th in the league last year in PFF defensive grade. Let me see. No, they weren't too bad, but they weren't. They were bottom 10 in the league, which is not too great. And they you saw with Sam Howell last year, they just had to sling the football every single game. And if
Yeah.
Jaden Davis can do that, he's going to light up the stat sheet. And I'm sure he's going to make a lot of mistakes, but all rookies do. Even Peyton Manning, his rookie season, I think he broke the record for rookie interceptions. Um, it happens. I think he can make mistakes and still light up the stat sheet with both his arms and his legs, and then win the Rookie of the Year. I guess the cons here is that I'm not expecting many wins out of this Washington football team. I think it's less of a factor to his MVP, but certainly still a factor. And then you get with any running quarterback, there's an injury risk there too. But I think if I had a bet, I'd take out Jaden Daniels here.
Yeah. I mean, if 5.5 to 1 compared to Caleb, when these guys are probably going to have pretty comparable seasons. I mean, you never know, but like they are set up. They're both going to be QB1s. I mean, Caleb does have some better weapons, but as you mentioned, like you're probably going to be able to hand the ball off a little bit more, rely a little bit more on the run game. Whereas, yeah, Jaden Daniels going to have to do a lot more and almost everything for this offense.
Yeah, yeah.
And to your point, Sam Howell did lead the NFL in pass attempts last year.
So you're gonna get the opportunities for Jaden Daniels here. Um, I think, you know, just minimize mistakes. And really part of the game is play all 17 games. There's no guarantee that any of these rookies do that. He's not doing himself a favor being such a run heavy quarterback, but if he can do that and he's already gonna beat half the pack. And don't forget, people were raving about this guy out of the pro day, out of college. If you didn't have Caleb Williams being such a runaway number one overall pick, this guy would have been a slam dunk at number one in just about every draft. Like last year, he's a number one pick. He goes before both CJ Stroud, as crazy as to say, seeing how well he did in his rookie season, and certainly before Bryce Young too.
Yeah. No, no, I agree.
But let's go to your pick here. I think you got
Yeah,
his
his
college
protege.
teammate there. Look at it looks a lot better.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm going with the receiver rather than a quarterback. A little bit more of a long shot at 10 to 1. I mean, I won't be surprised if either quarterback wins it, but going through the rookie of the year winners over the years, I was a little bit more surprised to see just the mix of wide receivers, running backs, QBs. I mean, it's not like MVP where this is a quarterback award.
Yeah.
It is pretty evenly distributed. So, I mean, yes, Caleb and Jaden have the best opportunity to, I mean, they're gonna have the ball in their hands every play. I think Malik Neighbors has a similar scenario with the Giants where he's by far and away the number one receiver on this team.
Oh yeah.
It is going to make it hard where teams are probably going to be able to key in on him day one. But from what I've seen in preseason, just some highlights here and there from obviously when he was at LSU, is he's still going to be able to catch the ball.
Oh
He
yeah.
had more than 300 yards than um, Marvin Harrison Jr. did, over 20 receptions last year. Yes, he had Jaden Daniels from the ball, which makes a difference. But I mean, he's a little bit more of a playmaker in my mind. Um, Going anecdotally too. I mean, two, um, so basically three receivers have won the Rookie of the Year award in the last 10 years. Two of those, being Odell and Jamar Chase. I mean, just seems like these LSU receivers, they come in
They
the
come ready
NFL
to
and
play.
they're just ready immediately. I mean, even Justin Jefferson, but yeah, I just think Malik Neighbors be ready to go. Marvin Harrison Jr., you can make a similar point with the Cardinals. Does have a better quarterback throwing in the ball with Kyler, but I think between Trey McBride, Michael Wilson, just a few more guys to pass the ball around over there. Like Malik Neighbors comes in and he is the guy day one in New York. And I'm not saying they're going to be even sniffing the playoffs, but this team did make the playoffs 2 years ago with Daniel Jones as quarterback. So I don't think you can completely write him off. I mean, yes, he's not great, but he's shown he can win games.
Yeah,
And
and
I just think,
sneaky
yeah,
dual threat
he's got
quarterback.
everything.
Jalen Jones, throughout his tenure as starting QB in New York, has never once had a receiver of Malik Neighbors' talent. We haven't even seen him play a single snap in the NFL, and we can confidently say that he's better than any receiver that Daniel Jones has thrown to. I got a feeling he's going to be targeting him early and often just because he's got that kind of talent at his disposal. I'm really intrigued to see what happens, and I think it's a very solid pick, especially given the odds. So I'm excited to see how that one plays out too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they might overuse him. Maybe he gets hurt. Never know. But
But like you saw the same thing happen with Garrett Wilson on the Jets. He's a wide receiver that was immediately number one. They had no talent at wide receiver at all. Doesn't even have a good quarterback throwing the football. Didn't matter. Everyone knew they were going to Garrett Wilson. Didn't matter. Still lights up the stat sheet. Didn't have a quarterback throwing him the ball. Didn't matter. When you have talent like that, a wide receiver is undeniable. And if elite neighbors can put up numbers that a starting wide receiver would have in any other team in a better situation, and he's got a great shot to be that rookie of the year. And, I think it'd be refreshing to see some fun talent at wide receiver in New York too.
yeah, I mean, especially even if, say, the quarterbacks do play pretty well, so does Neighbors. I mean, people just love to attribute wins and losses to the quarterback. Like if the Bears and the Bears and the Commanders don't do very well, I mean, I think Caleb and Jaden Daniels take a little bit more blame for that. Whereas Neighbors, I mean, they don't really care what happens. Like he could ball out and he's not going to get any blame for them
Very
losing
fair.
football games.
And the one thing too about rookie of the year more than MVP, it's that they are comparing him a little bit more to the other people at their position. So when Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels do really well, but they say, well, there's plenty of quarterbacks in the NFL that are playing better than that. Where like Malik Neighbors can go put up 1,000 yards and they say 1,000 yards for a receiver is a pretty elite number. Like if you can do that, like you're the rookie of the year. And so you look at CJ Stroud last year, he played incredible for a quarterback, not for a rookie quarterback, but for a quarterback, and that's what earned him the right. And so if Malik Neighbors can play incredible for a wide receiver, not just a rookie wide receiver, that's what's going to give it to him. And I think out of all the guys, it's probably Marvin Harrison and him that have the opportunity to be like think about kind of war in baseball, have the highest war of
Yeah.
because it's so relative to the position you play and the people you're being compared to.
Yeah, no, that's a great point too. And even like you said, Stroud last year, I mean, he sets the bar so high for quarterbacks, best rookie
Yeah.
quarterback season in the NFL. Not that you have to reach that to be the rookie quarterback of the year, but I mean, just like you said, comparisons though.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So yeah, going back to rookie of the year odds, you could see some going crazy from like Bo Nix, who might sneak in a quarterback. Xavier Worthy was a little higher than I thought he would be compared to some of these
Yeah,
other rookie wide receivers too. But when you have Patrick Mahomes throwing the football, that's what happens. I think sneaky dark horse, sneaky one would be Keon Coleman at plus 3,000. Talk about a
yeah,
guy that can come in, be wide receiver one potentially, and within Hall of maybe not Hall of Fame, but he'll probably get there. An elite quarterback with Josh Allen throwing the football and with that wide receiver one void. I think Keon Coleman, if he steps up, he's got as good opportunity. He's got a better opportunity than anybody else here to be that rookie of the year, given that he has potential to be the Stephon Diggs in that offense.
yeah. That's one I didn't think about that. Now that you mentioned, I love that pick. I mean, yeah, the other guys in Buffalo aren't really set up to assume that number one receiver role. It's going to be open until either Keon grabs it or
It's his
they
to
find
win.
somebody else.
Someone else could go take it. Um, but I think it's Shakir. He's another young receiver there in Buffalo that could take it too. But it's Keon Coleman could go out there and take it and be that guy, and it could be special. Now here's a really, really dark horse rookie of the year, plus 4,200, Ricky Pearsall, who knows?
Oh, you like Ricky?
The reason being it's
Is this
dependent.
if Ayuk leaves?
It's dependent on Brandon Ayuk leaving. I think with that Kyle Shanahan offense, you could throw any receiver out there and they're going to look really good. Not to take away from what Ayuk did last year at all, but I think a lot of people can succeed in a Kyle Shanahan offense, especially when you have to worry about Deebo Samuel, George Hill, and Christian McCaffrey. I think Ricky Pearsall could take a lot of those looks that Brandon Ayuk had, make some plays, and could find his way being a rookie of the year. Now, that's dependent on the trade, and it's dependent on him being healthy, which he's already had trouble in training camp, and it's dependent on him stepping up. But that's a real long shot that I think he's a first round wide receiver talent. Put a first round wide receiver talent in that 49ers offense at a pretty close to wide receiver one role in that Ayuk spot, you got a chance. No, that's just me throwing it. I know you like Brock Bowers. What do you think about him at plus 4,200?
I mean, I love it at the plus 4,200. I mean, I just remember he was another guy who just when stepped into the scene in Georgia as a freshman, was a leading receiver. Um, yeah, I mean, he's more of a wide receiver than a tight end, which again, talking about our comparisons, I think he could like a total long shot, but he could potentially lead the NFL in tight end receiving yards this year. Um, on the flip side of that, I mean, Laporta just also had the best rookie tight end season ever, but
It's tough
Stroud
because he was going
beat him
against
out.
Stroud, who had basically the best rookie quarterback
Yeah.
season
Like
that
maybe Laporta
anyone can
wins it on
remember.
another year, but I mean for that reason that's also tough. Like we haven't seen a tight end win it, haven't seen a tight end win it in the last over a decade, probably much longer than that. But I wonder if they've has one ever
I
even
would
won
love
it.
to know. Not off the top of my head. No.
Yeah, so I mean it's tough, but I mean he's a little bit
Like
different. He's more
Ditka.
of a
I
wide receiver.
guarantee Ditka did it. I've almost
I like
like
it.
I would be shocked. I had to look this up. Because
Um,
if any tight end was gonna do it, it'd be Ditka. Tight end
Another
rookie.
one, super long shot, and relying on several things here, but Jalen Wright, 7,500, running
Yeah.
back for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
If A Chain gets hurt and he gets thrown into that high powered offense, I mean, just from watching some highlights this preseason, like he's just as fast, if not faster. Um, like yeah, I don't know. They're definitely did their scouting report. They just look for speedsters all over the field in Miami, but he fits right in and could put up insane numbers. Like if A Chain stayed healthy, he could have also been the rookie of the year
Oh
last year.
yeah. I like that a lot. At least the logic there. All right, we're gonna end the video with this. Mike Ditka did win it as a
Ah,
rookie tight end. Here are some other ones that some guys I've never heard of. Charlie Young for the Eagles in 73. Robert, back-to-back years, actually, a tight end was rookie of the year. You got Robert Walt for the St. Louis Cardinals. But that's in, did
oh,
you know the St. Louis Cardinals were a team in 1987 in the NFL? And then
not
in
for that. Oh, no.
1988, Keith Jackson. And then here's the name you'll remember. 2002, I believe. Let me get back to it. It was Jeremy Shockey.
Ah,
Here's a name I feel
Eagles.
like you've definitely heard of.
Yeah, I remember Jeremy Shockey.
We got him at the
Little
tail end of his career,
Mando
but he was a
Florian.
beast. Yeah, guy was just a menace. All right, there's our tight end knowledge for the rookie of the years. I hope you enjoyed that one. If you're somehow still around, we'll talk to you guys in another video soon. We'll get going with our Survivor picks and our NFL Week 1 picks real shortly here. Everyone, have a great NFL season. Let us know what you're thinking for these futures as well.